testing. Boleh dengar? Can? All right. Hello, a very good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. How are you doing today? Hope that you're doing well. My name is Nara, and I'm the moderator for this webinar. All right, so welcome to Speak with Confidence, webinar hosted by English Language Unit, the International Liaison Unit Politeknik Tuanku Sultan Bahia, in collaboration with Universitas Muhammadiyah Purwokerto, Indonesia. Thank you for spending some time with us today. I'm very excited. I hope that you're excited too. We have a great speaker with us today, all the way from Universitas Muhammadiyah Purwokerto, Indonesia, Dr. Santi Hawanti. Dear participants, well, if you are wondering how you could boost your confidence teaching in English language, what are the effective ways to use English in the classroom, how you could improve your marks for Domain 5 of your teaching and learning observation, are there any special expressions or language that you could use when teaching in English? Can I use Malay language when teaching in English? If yes, how much, when, and how? Are there any special techniques that I could use to improve my English language? And many other common questions that the lecturers are struggling with, especially the non-English lecturers who are teaching in English. So worry no more, this webinar is dedicated to these answers. Right, before I introduce our speaker for today, a couple of important announcements. If you have any questions during the webinar, please drop them in the chat box on my left. And don't forget to write your name and state your department or institution you are from. We will collect them and address as many questions as possible during the Q&A session at the end of the webinar. Announcement number 2, the QR code to eCert will be shared at the end of the webinar, so stay tuned until the end. We will display the QR code on the screen. Please scan the QR code. You will be asked to fill in the details and answer some questions. There is something important that I have to tell you, that since this eCert is auto-generated, so please double check your details before you hit the submit button. All right, so if there's any mistakes, there's nothing much that we can do to help. Right, whatever that you're going to fill in the form is what is going to appear on the cert. And also, please give us 1 month to process all the certs, because there are so many of them. We will process them in batches. Well, some of you may get the eCert tomorrow, some of you may get the day after, and so on. All right, now let me introduce our speaker for today. I was looking through her CV yesterday and it was really impressive. So here are some of the things about her. Assistant Professor Dr. Santi Hawanti. She is currently the head of Master of English Education Department and the head of Bureau of Planning and Development of Universitas Muhammadiyah Purwokerto. She is a reviewer for both national and international journals, a consultant of English Teachers Forum, a keynote speaker at national and international conferences, and also a board member of TESOL Center of UNP. She has also experience serving as a visiting lecturer at Sofia University, Bulgaria, at the Faculty of Classical and Modern Philology. She has completed her bachelor degree in English education from the UNP in 2001, earned her master's degree in applied linguistics from the Yogyakarta State University in 2005, and holds a doctorate in philosophy from the University of South Australia. Now, all right, what our speaker has to say today, it is really valuable information. It is an important topic for you and your students, and even could be a life-changing information for some of you. You may have the aha moment during the webinar. So I highly recommend you to don't just listen to what she has to say. Get yourself a paper and a piece of paper or a notepad. Take notes. It's really going to be worth it. And I really hope that you will learn something from the webinar today, some tips, ideas, tools, techniques, strategies to help you to teach in English so that you can be much more confident when in the class. So if everyone is ready, let's begin. Let's welcome our speaker for today's webinar, Assistant Professor Dr. Santi Hawanti. Over to you, Doctor.
Okay, well, good afternoon, everyone. Thank you so much for introducing me in a very nice words that makes me feel more confident in speaking in front of my friends now coming from PTSB. Well, ladies and gentlemen, first of all, I would like to express my gratitude to the management of PTSB who has given me the opportunity to share my experience or just my thought with the theme, which is actually simple, yet but it is also challenging. It's about speaking with confidence. Well, talking about confidence is a little bit complicated because it is not only involving the strategies how to make your speaking becomes fluent or easy to listen by the audience, but also it involves your psychological readiness to speak in front of the audience. Well, I also would like to express my thanks to all of you who have attended this webinar. I'm really happy and I'm so proud of you all that actually, as the information I got, all of you are teaching non-English courses, but you have to use English to deliver the material to your students. So 2 thumbs up because you are so special, and I know that it is not something easy to handle these kinds of uh, agenda, like this kind of activities, teaching other subject using English where you do not have English education background, or maybe you just have limited access to the training to the English. So you are so special, you are so fabulous and so cool. Uh, and now I just have limited time to share my talk, and I hope what I'm going to share to you is not only giving you information how to make you confident in speaking English, but also to make you realize that speaking is part of our daily life. So you don't need to worry much about that. Even though you have to speak English, it doesn't mean that you have to be perfect in speaking English. Well, let me start my PowerPoint so it helps me with some ideas on how to make you more confident in speaking English. But again, I have to emphasize here that I have been teaching around 20 years in Muhammadiyah University of Purwokerto, and I found out that it is not always easy to speak English, especially for our students. Even I have English education background, but it doesn't mean that my English is perfect. The things that I always try to affirm myself is that English is not my first language. That's why making mistake is fine. But the things that I have to do is how to make my English is better and better, so the audience will be easily understand my explanation in English. Okay. Well, now let's go with this. Yeah, talking about self-confidence is actually full set of trust. It's trust on yourself. Now I have a question. It's not a question. This is just a scale to measure your ability or your competencies in English. You can ask yourself. Let's start with the reflection. If someone asks you about your English speaking abilities, uh, on a scale from 0 to 10, which number will you choose? How self-confident am I in my English speaking abilities? Yesterday when I met Pak Nara and he informed me that most of you can speak English well, even though some of you are still struggling with English, but it means that you have already got English with you. So if I have to score your English speaking abilities, your confidence in speaking English, maybe you can choose around 6, 7, 8, 9. Yeah, maybe no one want to choose 10 because it represents the perfectness of speaking English. But I'm sure that all of you are in the level of number 7, 8, 6, 7, 8. Yeah, and well, when we talk about confidence, when you are in number 6, you choose 6 to represent your self-confidence in speaking English. You have to ask yourself, because when we talk about the self in the phrase self-confidence, it means about you. Well, I know that in Indonesia, even in my university, the lecturers are also encouraged to use English when they deliver the material in the classroom. For those who graduated from overseas university, they might not find a very serious problem in doing that. But for those who are not really getting the exposure of English, they may have the problems on how to do this in front of their students. And sometimes they do not want to do this not because they can't, but they are not confident. I'm afraid if I make mistake and the students will laugh at me. I'm afraid if I mistake then my colleagues will underestimate me. And I'm afraid to talk a lot because sometimes I just get blank when I was in front of my students. I don't know what to say. And many things happens and it makes them scared of speaking English in front of many people, including the students and also the colleagues. Well, these problems happens everywhere, especially for those who are not the native speaker of English. So like in Indonesia, the status of English is as an international, as a foreign language, which means that English is only presented in the classroom or for the business purposes. It is not, like not used for daily communication. Even I'm a lecturer teaching English, but when I meet friends outside the classroom and we have a chit chat outside the classroom, we use Bahasa Indonesia or even our local language. Because of what? It is more comfortable, and we think that the message will be easily transferred to the partners when we are speaking in Bahasa Indonesia or in Japanese language. And this situation doesn't really demand us to use English because no one complains. Even no one asks you to do that. Why don't you speak English? You are a lecturer of English. No one asks me to do that. Just for particular purposes. So we enjoy this situation and it become, like a fossilized in our mind that it is okay not to speak English, even though we are lecturers of English. But for you, it's special because you are not lecturers of English, but you have to teach English, as you have to teach subject using English. It's amazing because you are not only struggling with your language, but you are also struggling on how to find the best technique to deliver the material to your students so they can understand your explanation. You have to have the skill to pick the words, you have to have the skill to see the content, also the context, and you also need to master the content of your materials. So you work harder than us in this case. So what can we do to help you to speak more confident, because you have already confident enough with yourself? You are teaching other subject, other course in English, the non-English courses, and you have to deliver the material in English. It's just you have already got that confidence. The thing that you don't have may be because you think that your English is not very good. You sometimes find problems how to say this in English. Well, for the first step, let's try to think clearly. Not everything is easy to be transferred into English. Sometimes for particular terms, we cannot simply translate it into English, especially when this is too local. Yeah. So please feel fine when you cannot always translate the words in your language into English. And the second, your your teaching in your classroom using English, the first thing is not to make the student understand the material, but to make them aware that they have to try to understand the information in English. So you focus on how to make your students feel happy first meeting you. You focus on how to make your classroom interesting, because it is important for you to own English as a tool, because in this way your English can become a part of you. What does it mean? It means that you use English not only to make your students understand your explanation, but to make them realize that they have to understand, they have to try to keep trying to understand your explanation clearly. So there are both sides working together to understand each other, that they need to learn from each other. They have to understand that I need to understand my lecturer explanation, and the lecturers need to understand how to make the student understand my explanation. So you do not push yourself too much in this case. Otherwise, you will get stressful, you will get frustrated, and you don't know what to do next. Okay, I'm not going to start from technical things on how to make your speaking becomes much better, or how to improve or how to enhance your confidence in speaking English. But I would like to start from a very psychological sides of language learning. When we talk about confidence, we talk something different from the language the language competencies. Most people are very good at English. Their TOEFL or their IELTS score might be higher than others. They can get 8 or 7.5 for IELTS, but they don't want to say something. They don't want to say some sentences in front of public. They are not confident to say that, even though they have English competencies sufficient or very outstanding English competencies, but it doesn't mean it guarantees them to speak confidently in front of many people. Because confidence is merely about the trust to yourself. If you trust that you can do this, then the world will say, yes, you can do that. But if you do not trust yourself, you say that, okay, I can't do this, it's too hard for me to do, I don't want to do this, then the world will say no to you. So the first thing here when we talk about confidence is ask yourself, are you ready enough for this challenge? You do not need to ask yourself too many questions about your ability. I can't speak English well, my grammar is bad, my pronunciation is not standard, I cannot speak like a native speaker of English speaking. You do not need to do that. Just speak Malaysian English, Singaporean English, Indonesian English. As long as you try to pronounce it well, then the word will be easily accepted by other people. Do not ask too many questions to yourself, which contains negative question to you. Am I good enough in speaking English? Am I good enough in speaking with a correct grammar or structure? The thing that you have to do is, I can do this. I trust myself that I can do this. Some friends come to me, many questions they address to me like, Ibu Santi, how can I speak English fluently? And they say this, they ask this question in English. I say, you did it. You have asked me using a correct English question. So what is your problem? Yes, Ibu, but my English is not very good. You said it. You said it. You said perfect English just now. So what is your problem? Even I myself, I sometimes figure out that I'm not really perfect in speaking English. Sometimes I miss the, like the verb agreements. I'm not really accurate in using the grammar. I'm not really precise in picking up the words. But I just keep trying and trying. And if they don't really understand my English, then they say, or they ask me, can you say it again? Or pardon me, then I started to say it in another way. Just simplify your sentences to make other people understand. So confident English speakers are not perfectionists. When you are nervous, you are speaking English in front of public, in front of your students, and you are nervous, your student will focus on your negative vocal and visual cues. But when you speak confidently and then put smiles on your faces, rhythms like like friends, try to comfort yourself and make sure that it is okay to make mistake as long as you realize and you start to make improvement in the future. That's okay. Yeah. So just calm down yourself because it is not always easy to say something in English, especially when we are in a rush condition, we are in a panic situation. Every bad things may happen during this time. So I would like to share some of maybe not the tips, but just ideas on how to make your speaking in front of public easily accepted by the students or the colleagues. Well, ladies and gentlemen, some people failed in their speaking in front of many people. They failed to make. They failed in teaching or delivering the material in English because of ignoring or some small aspects before they do the show. So the things that you can do, you can take into account when you want to start teaching your student using English is the first you have to be intent to be open with your students. What does it mean? Create a good relationship with your students. Because you are teaching students in university or colleges or polytechnic, it means that they are adult learners. You just need to be close to them. So you try to understand them. You can understand their characteristic. When you have known this, or you will feel much comfortable making interaction with them, or doing activities with them, including teaching them. So many lecturers coming into the classroom focus on the materials, deliver the materials using the slides or medias, but they forget to set a good relationship with their students. They forget to treat the student as friends. That's why you create nervousness in your classroom because you see that your student faces are like maybe aliens looking at you with a big question on their head. Uh, seems to me that seems to you that they are questioning you or something like that. So you feel strange in the classroom. Try to erase or try to eliminate this condition by having a good relationship with your students. Try to understand their characteristics. Try to identify their needs. So when they meet you as a great lecturer because you understand them well, they will provide you a comfortable room for you to say or to share everything during your teaching. So the connection with your student is also important factors to build up your confidence in speaking. If you do not have good connection, then you will feel like you are in a strange situation. You are not really in your place. And when someone is coming to a new place, you don't know anyone in that room, or you just know some of them, you will feel not really comfortable with that. And of course, it really influences the way you speak English and the way they perceive your explanation or they receive your explanation. And then the next is you have to be passionate with your topic. Show to the students that you are capable, you are knowledgeable. When you are knowledgeable about the topic or the materials, your students will focus on your material rather than on your language weaknesses. So when, like for example, you are teaching engineering or you are teaching math or you are teaching science, you start explaining about something, even though your English is not really perfect, your English is not really outstanding, but because the way you understand the content of the materials is very great, is very good, then the student will focus on that. So show that you are also motivated to share the knowledge to your students. They will feel your energy, they will feel your positive vibes during your teaching because you know the material well. Not very difficult because you are master in that subject. Some of you might teach, like science or math or engineering or any other subject, and that's your field. So I'm sure the only problems for you is only how to say the material, how to deliver this material in English to my students. And you have to understand that your students may have problems too in English. So now you are in a situation where everyone is struggling, not only you but also your students. That's why you have to listen to your students quite often. When they don't know your explanation, they don't understand, they cannot get your point, be patient, because they are also struggling to understand English. They are not getting used to speaking or listening to English. So they just they just got English in the classroom with you. They lack of English exposure. But in Malaysia, English is considered as a second language, right? So means that everyone outside the university or outside the campus or outside the uni, many of them speak English quite well compared to people in Indonesia because we do not use English for daily communication. But when I was in Malaysia, many times I found out that people speak English quite easy in Malaysia. So you're a bit lucky compared to me because in your country, then so many people can speak English, although they are not only speaking for academic purposes, but at least the students get much better exposure of English compared to our students in Indonesia. So intend to be open with your students mean you are open with any criticisms. Excuse me, sir, I don't really understand. Your explanation is too flowering. We do not get your point. Don't be upset. They are honest telling you they don't really understand your explanation. Just try to simplify your explanation. Be positive thinking to your students. They come to your class not to listen to your English, but they want to get something that is your skill, that is your subject, that is your materials. So that's why when you make mistake, you cannot explain clearly. That is okay. Just try to simplify your explanation or help yourself with pictures or graphs or anything that can help you and your student understand the information much better. Okay. Now, how to make you confident in teaching using English? Some people forget to make preparation, but not you. I'm sure that all of you already make preparation for your teaching. Even every day you prepare yourself to teach your students. But preparation doesn't mean you just prepare the materials, but you have to prepare yourself as well. You have to convince yourself that now I'm going to teach my students in English, so I already practice some words, or I try to always use the time before teaching to practice my speaking. Greet yourself in the mirror every morning. Maybe, hi, I'm going to teach my student this today, and I'm going to talk about the blah 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 materials, and hopefully you can understand my explanation. Or we can start from you practice yourself in front of the mirror, just to make your speaking becomes more fluent, because your practice help you at least to avoid you from the slip of the tongue. Yeah, the slip of the tongue may happen because we never use that words or that expressions in our conversation, our speaking. Teaching plan is very important, and also teaching media. The media will help you to support your teaching, your explanation. You can use a simple PowerPoint, put notes on that, so it helps you to remember the things that you are going to present to your students. You put the keywords of your explanation, so you don't miss the important part of your material, even though you cannot say it in English correctly or properly, but your students see your PowerPoint, so they can really understand the written information from your PowerPoint. And if they have questions, they will not forget to ask you the question because the information are there in your PowerPoint. Or you may also use the visual aids to help you, because when you are using visual aids, you are using, like media. The concentration of your students will not only on you, but also on the media. While you're explaining, their eyes is not focusing, their eyes are not focusing on you, but focusing on the media as well, or with the PPT. Yeah, focus on the PPT, focus on the media. So you are not becoming the main object to be observed during the lesson, because you use something to help the student focus on this thing rather than on you. Yeah. And when it happens, then you will, like you will be more confident, because you don't see the students' eyes staring at you during the lesson, showing their confusion. You don't know what happened to my students. When you ask any questions, they don't ask you questions. Do you understand? They do not say anything showing their understanding. So this is so confusing, right, for you? And for me, the two questions, do you understand, and any questions, they do not give us any information about the students' understanding. Do you understand? Even though they say yes, we don't know what kind of understanding they have. Do you have any question? No doesn't mean that they understand your explanation. Sometimes no indicate they don't want to be with you again in the classroom. Okay, come on, teachers, just finish the class. I don't want to. I don't want to sit long for longer time in the class. So they say, any question? No. So try to change the questions, become something more effective for you to get information from your students. And the third things that you have to consider when you want to speak in front of teaching using English in the classroom, as I mentioned previously, is know your students well. I'm sure that in the classroom, take for example 40 students, 30 students in your classroom, or maybe 100 students in your classroom. Some of them are very good at English. They know English well, they know how to use English. And most of them, maybe they don't know English at all. So this information will help you to decide what is the best approach or methods can I use in my teaching. What is the best technique I can use to make the students involved in the teaching and learning process. If you do not have this particular information, you are blind and you don't know where to go, because this basic information will lead you to plan your teaching. When you know your students, it helps you to plan your teaching, and it helps you to decide what is the best thing, the best technique, the best method you can use in teaching your students. So don't ignore this, because knowing your student is also part of the teacher responsibility in the classroom. It helps you to motivate to find the best way to motivate your students as well. It's also good for you to understand the students' problem when you know your students well, and it helps you to make feel much comfortable sitting together with your students, learning together with your student in your classroom. Number four, sorry, this is number four, it should be number four. Talking about topics or themes or materials, sometimes people think that knowing the materials well or having good understanding to the material is enough to make your students enjoy your teaching. Of course, it is not 100% correct, but you have to remember that the students expect the teachers to be more knowledgeable. The teachers have outstanding knowledge about the topic. You can bring new information every time you are coming to the classroom to your students. You can bring something that your students are not expecting during the teaching. It can be information, it can be skills, it can be uh, stories to motivate them. You can tell them about something which is not really related to the material, but it helps. It shows you that you are knowledgeable. When you are knowledgeable enough, then your student will trust you. And when the student trusts you, you will get your self-confidence. Someone with self-confidence will be much easier to say something in front of other people. So I hope you can find the red lines of this explanation why we should to be knowledgeable person. You are not only talking about your material, you are not only talking about your uh, what your field, but you're also trying to connect your materials with the context outside there. Like for example, I have some students and they are very happy when I tell them my experience living overseas only for a short time, but it gives the motivation that I can do like what Ibu Santi did, or giving them like a jokes in the classroom to make them feel relaxed. Should the joke be in English? No, you don't need to do that. Just make it, use this Malay when you are telling the jokes to the students, just to make them feel relaxed. And when they feel relaxed, start your English to deliver the material again. Start using your English to say to transfer the knowledge to your students. So please be wise in teaching your students because they are also uh, having a feeling of boredom. So your teaching doesn't mean that you have to speak English all day long, but you have to find out when should I stop speaking English and when I should try to use jokes in my teaching using Malay. This is only for making the student feel more relaxed. They do not get frustrated because listening to you speaking English. And some of them, they don't want to say anything. They just keep silent, do not say anything, even though they don't really understand your explanation. So you do not get feedback from them about your explanation, whether or not they understand it clearly. Okay. And then the next is make a note. I'm sure we are not perfect person. We are easy to forget basic information, or we are easy to forget the most important information. That's why make a note. If you want to use particular term in English and you are not quite sure you can remember this term, but this term is very important, just take note. Take a piece of paper or sticky note or whatever. You can put it on the screen. If you are doing online teaching, you put it on your computer screen. Or if you are doing offline teaching, you can put it on the whiteboard, just to remind you that you cannot miss these terms because it is very important. This is the keywords of your materials. So please take note. Yeah, if it is necessary and you are not quite sure that you can memorize all the information or the terms in the crucial term or the vital terms that may appear in your materials. And you can also take another step-by-step process of your speaking. Take, for example, greetings to students, and then after that you can ask rhetorical questions to your students. Yeah, and then you just take note. If you are not quite sure that you can remember the step-by-step procedures of your teaching. It's different from the teaching plan because the teaching plan will tell you about what you are going to teach and the basic steps. But the notes is something that may make your classroom become more interesting, become more attractive for your students. Take for example, make a joke, yeah, a joke about this. If you write it down, if you put it in note, then you will remember this and you will use it in your classroom, so you don't miss anything for your teaching at that time. So take notes, because even when we are getting older, the capacity of our memory is so limited, so we have to use other things to help us to remember the important things. Okay, and then the sixth is control your speaking. I'm sure that you and I are always nervous to start something at the beginning. So sometimes we are speaking not very fluent. We are stuttered in pronouncing some words. We feel nervous. We are juggling in picking up the words. We we forget to use the correct grammar because we are too nervous. We don't know how to calm down ourselves. But it just happens only in the first 5 minutes. After 5 minutes, and you start enjoying the class, you understand your students well, you have made the preparation, you have already bring the PowerPoint. I bet that you can do your teaching much better. Yeah. So please control your speaking means that speaks don't too fast, because when you are speaking fast, it also indicates that you are nervous. You are afraid if you miss the information for your students, so you try to speak fast. But speaking fastly, sometimes it disturbs your students' understanding your explanation. So control your pace or your speed of your speaking and your pace of your speaking. Don't be too slow, but you sometimes need to slow down your speaking, because you need to emphasize some important words for your students so they can listen to it and they can get the point. They can take note. Please don't be too slow, because the students will feel so bored, and don't be too fast, because the students will get nothing from your explanation. Just try to control your speaking, because when you are controlling your speaking, you are controlling your emotion. When you are controlling your emotion, you are controlling yourself. You try to be very calm but full of knowledge. So the students will enjoy your presentation, the step-by-step presentation, yeah, and the students will get the ideas clearly. And sometimes when you are speaking slowly, you can also notice, oops, I'm making mistake in my speaking. So you can improve your speaking immediately. But when you are speaking too fast, you yourself sometimes cannot identify your weaknesses or your mistake in your speaking. So you cannot make improvement. So speaking slowly, too slow is not too good. Just make it a pace. A good pace of your speaking will help you to comfort yourself and to comfort your students, and to make your explanation easily followed or easily understood by your students. Well, as you prepare to speak, proceed in 3 steps. I'm sure that you are teaching different students, yeah, the students' field or background. That's why you have to do, the first thing you have to do is you have to conduct analysis to the students' needs or the students' preference. Yeah. What they prefer, the preference, do they prefer to play a games with you? Do they prefer having discussion? Do they prefer to have individual assignment? You must be able to identify this. It helps you to really find the best activities for your students in the classroom. So you do not need to speak English all day long because they can work in a group. You can give them assignment. You can ask them to play games. Yes, adults like games too. They don't want to sit all the time just listening to you. So just give them like a quiz or anything that makes them feel happy. And then the next is be clear about your specific purpose in talking to your students. You have to be clear about the specific purpose, and it means that you have to understand what is the objective of your teaching on that day, what basic competencies will the students gain during learning this particular material with you. And you also need to prepare content that will allow you to succeed with the purpose you have in the mind. Try to enrich your content subject knowledge. Yeah, so your knowledge about the content, and try to connect with the situation out there. So it will give the students different perspective about the material, and they will not focus on your language. They will focus on the information from you. So in this case, because they get something they have to focus on, they do not focus on your language. Even though you make mistake, they will not care about that. I don't care if the teacher speak English not very perfectly, but as long as the explanation is clear, that it's fine. Clear explanation doesn't always mean clear grammar or correct grammar, but sometimes when you are supported by the like the visual aids or the media, it also helps your students to understand the material. So again, the focus of my speaking here is to reduce the feeling of being not confident. You have to add you have to add or to improve your confidence by having more information to your students. But of course, it is not something in the book. It is something from your experience. Bring the experience to the classroom so the students will get something different from you. You are not only focusing yourself on delivering the material to your students, but also giving something new. You always add something new in your teaching for your students. So the students will not focus much more on your bad English, you say, or your weaknesses in speaking English. They have something to do except identifying your mistake in speaking English, or identifying your being nervous in speaking English in front of the classroom. So, conclusion. Yeah, because we are limited by the time, so I have to take conclusion. If you get anxious or stressed about speaking English in front of your student or colleagues, it probably means you are lacking confidence. So when you are lacking confidence, it means that it can be because you are anxious or stressed. Yeah. The good news is that confidence is a skill which can be learned. So confidence is a skill which can be learned. You can learn more and more to be more confident. And I have already shared some ideas on how to make you feel much more confident, especially in speaking and teaching your student using English. I know that sometimes you complain a lot because my English is not good, my English is not satisfying, and I'm struggling to use my English in teaching my students. And I always get stressed when I have to teach, when I have to go inside the classroom because I don't know what to say in English. Just try to make notes. If it is necessary, you just go and write the English sentences in your paper. And if it is necessary, just read. It's okay. Take for example, you just said, okay, class, today we are going to talk about this, and I'm sure that it's okay for the first time. But later on, eventually, you will be getting used to with this situation. You do not need the notes anymore. You become more fluent in speaking English because you read a lot and you practice a lot. So if you cannot remember all the things, you just take notes. Like this afternoon when I have to greet you because I'm afraid if I forget some things, I just take notes. And taking notes, even though I don't use that notes because I forget how to use that notes, I feel much more comfortable because it means that I have prepared something. If I forget, then I just uh, look at the notes, and the notes will help me to say something more, so the class will not be very quiet because you stay still, you do not say anything, you keep silent because you forget or you are confused what to say. Just make a note. If you What about if the lecturing runs, what about 1.5 hours? Should I write down all the things? If it is possible, or if it is necessary, then yes, do it. Especially when you have to explain particular concept to your students in English, you have to help yourself to make into a correct in writing. So try to write something in the paper, and you can read in front of your student. Your students will be fine with that. They will not see you as a bad lecturer. They will not underestimate you because it's very clear for them that you are reading a text, you are trying to explain something to your students. Do not think that because I'm a lecturer, so I'm superior, I don't want to be looked down by my students. No, that's not necessary to do, because your job or your duty is how to make the activity of teaching and learning run well, and your students get your informations, and the classroom is interactive or interesting for the students to follow. So making note is not a big sin, especially when you have to tell the procedure of something, or you have to explain a big concept of thing. Just write down in a notes, and then read in front of your students. You can explain the materials while you look at the notes, or if it is necessary, you just write down on the whiteboard, or if it is online, then you just can simply put the notes on your screen. I mean, like using a sticky note or something like that, so it helps you to explain something in the correct English. Do not push yourself too much without any support from your any support from other things, like the activity of taking notes, the activity of making PowerPoint. Because when you are making PowerPoint, means that you read something, and when you read something, you try to pronounce something. When you pronounce something, you try to say it, and when you try to say it, you are started to speak English more, much better and better. Well, I think that's my explanation, Mr. Bapak Nara. Thank you so much. Maybe if you have question or something related to this presentation, you can ask me, but because we are limited by the time, so hopefully you can get my points. And thank you so much. Now I go back to Pak Nara.
Thank you very much, Doctor, for such an interesting and informative presentation. So now, Doctor, we are going to begin to answer the questions submitted during the webinar. Doctor, our first question is from Ms. Wan Rosdayu. Her question is, what would be the best first step that we can take to make our students to feel confident when speaking English?
What is the step?
Best first step that we can do to make our students to feel confident when speaking English?
Okay. Okay. Should I answer directly or?
It's not written here which department she belongs to or which institution.
Yeah. Can I answer now?
Yes, Doctor.
Yes. Okay. what is the first step that we can do to make our students confident in speaking English? The first thing you have to identify what makes people not confident in speaking English. The first is because they are afraid of making mistake. The second is because they lack of vocabulary. The third is because they don't know how to say it correctly or properly. And the fourth is because sometimes they are getting, they are under pressure. So when you are successfully identified these things, then you can start to make this point become your consideration when you want to make your students speak confidently. The first is, it is okay for your students to make mistakes. So let them speak up. Don't make too many interruptions during their speaking. You can choose whether you are going to give immediate feedback or delay feedback. If you give immediate feedback, it means that you focus on their accuracy. You focus on their grammatical errors. But if you apply the delay feedbacks, it means that you focus on their fluency. So each feedback has its benefits or advantages and weaknesses. If you give immediate feedbacks, means that when the student make mistake during their speaking, they will lose their ideas. So they become blank. They don't know what to say again. And you just make their mood, their feeling of confidence disappear or vanish. And they are afraid to make or to continue their presentation or their speaking because they notice that you are observing them and you are focusing on their mistake or errors. But you are satisfied. You can directly correct their mistake. It means that you will not make them, you will make them remember this and it won't happen in the future. However, if you give them delay feedback, mean that you give opportunity for them to finish their speaking, and after that you just take notes and inform them the mistake or the errors they make during their speaking. The good thing is you let them enjoy their speaking, you give them a comfortable environments for them to speak, but when they are getting a delay feedback, maybe they will be easily forget because they are not in the speaking time. So the question is, which one? I don't remember the mistake, but it's okay. So the first thing is, it's okay for the students to make mistake, as long as you understand that English is not their first language. So, like becoming multilingual is not always easy for our students. They have to speak Malay, they have to speak English, and maybe they have to speak their local language. So you have to really understand that they are also struggling with this. So mistake is fine, as long as you have the time to make improvement. It's okay. And the second thing, the students will not feel confident in speaking English if, they do not get the support from the environment. So if you want to if you want to make your student feel comfortable in making mistake, if you want to make the student comfortable in speaking, do not focus much more on that mistake. Let them try. Give them exposure in speaking English. Create needs for the student. Try to create needs because this is important. But many teachers forget this. Many lecturers forget this. Most of you just come to the classroom, ask them to speak in English, but you don't create needs. Okay, class. Now you have to make a conversation, and the topic is about this. What for? What is the target? You don't tell them the target and you don't create the needs. How to create the needs for your students? So when they have the needs, they will put effort on that. So they will try hard. And eventually they can speak English much better than you are expecting. So in this case, try to make, agreement with your students. I mean, try to create a supporting environment for your students so they can feel much comfortable speaking English in your classroom. And the second thing is try to make you try to help them with procedures or informations or tips how to make them able to speak in English fluently. Help them with the information or with the access of sources so they can learn something from different sources, not only from you as a lecturer in speaking English, and appreciate them when they got appreciation from you, even though their level of achievement is still not meeting your requirement, but try to give appreciation because it gives them the feeling of being more confident. Means that you are happy with them, so they are happy to do more and more. Well, I think that's hopefully it answer your questions, but I focus much more on the students' psychological aspect in making them more confident in speaking and give them comments in a good way so they are not feeling so stressful. Giving comments in a good way doesn't mean that you have to be very nice all the time long, but at least giving comments in a good way means that you give them a feeling of the, the motivation to make improvement. So the feedback will give them the motivation to do improvement in the future. I think that's my answer, Pak Nara. Your microphone, please, Pak Nara.
Okay,
Yeah.
doctor. The next question is from Noor Shira. Okay. The question is, how do you explain to students in? Can you hear me, doctor? Doctor, can
Yes,
you hear me?
yes, yes, yes.
All right. So the second question is from Noor Shira. Right. She would like to know that how to explain to students in a way that is simple, without you losing context and content. How to explain to students in a simple way without losing context and content.
Yeah. Thank you for the question, Wan Nushira. How to explain to student in simple way without losing the context? Well, it needs practice because when we want to explain something, means that we are explaining a concept, and in a concept there are some keywords. So if you don't want to lose the keywords, just try, as I informed you just now or I explained previously, you just need to write down the explanation, use the notes for you. If you are not quite sure that you can control your speaking, because sometimes too many people speak fluently but they are not touching the content, so please take notes, try to use the keyword and do not use complicated or complex grammatical grammar or what is it, complex sentences containing complex grammar in the sentence. Just use simple sentences. Do not make sentence too long. Just make one sentence, one sentence, one sentence, one sentence. So it will be much clearer for the students. Take for example, you are going to explain about the concept about education. You want to say that education, it will be different if if you say education is an important aspect in our life because it gives the people the opportunity to improve their life and their quality of their life in their social. It's confusing for the students, but you can say education is important for our life. Through education, people will get the opportunity to improve their quality of life. And next. Make it into simple sentences. And the students will not think that you are not very good in your English. It's just the way you simplify your explanation. That's my answer, Pak Nara.
Okay, doctor. I think that's all the time that we have for the Q&A session. All right, doctor. So we at PTSB would like to express appreciation for inspiring presentation We really admired your depth of understanding of the topic today and your ability to present the subject in such an interesting way and produce one of the most memorable afternoon for us. And we really hope that you will be able to join us again in future webinars, Doctor. All
So
right, and thank.
thank you so much for this opportunity, and thank you for all the people in PTSB. My great warm greetings to all people in PTSB, and keep your positive thinking and positive attitude toward the English used in your classroom lectures. And I'm sure that you can improve your confidence time to time because experience tell you about will teach you about anything, including how to be more confident with your English. Just remember that English is not our first language, so mistake is okay as long as you realize that you can make improvement and always do improvement in the future. Again, thank you so much. I'm so sorry for some missing informations, and see you next time. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.
Many thanks from all of us, Doctor. All right. And dear participants, thank you for attending the webinar. Sorry if we are unable to answer all the questions, but be rest assured that we will organize more webinars in future. And don't forget to drop your comments below and also your suggestions and tell us how we can help you to improve your teaching in English language. We at ELU and ILUPTSB are more than happy to help you. And with that, I hope that all the very best to you and your students. I hope you found this webinar useful. Stay safe, everybody, in this difficult time. On behalf of English Language Unit and International Liaison Unit, Polytechnic Tuanku Sultan Bahia, and Dr. Santi Hawanti, thank you for joining us today. We hope to see you again next time. Signing off, Nara from Polytechnic Tuanku Sultan Bahia. And here is the QR code to the cert.